Hey guys, remember we're reading Lily to the Rescue, and at the end of chapter 5, remember Casey the Crow had hurt his wing, and Maggie Rose and her mom fixed it up, and they were trying to see if Casey could fly. So chapter 6 says, Casey lifted his wings a little, and I stared at my girl, Maggie Rose, because both Casey and I could hear in her voice that this was important. Crows can fly and come together to mob hawks to protect their chipmunk friends and hop over to see kittens, but as far as I know, they can't do much else. A dog can do a great many wonderful things if it just understands what is needed. I decided that since Maggie Rose was holding her arm out, I should lift my paw, which is called shake. It's a trick that Brian taught me. He had hamburger pieces, so I caught on right away. But nobody seemed to notice my shake, even though I was doing it so well. I know, Mom said. Maggie Rose, why don't you try running? Maybe the feeling of movement will give Casey the idea that he should try flying. That's a good idea, Dad agreed. Maggie Rose, keep your arm out and run into the wind. I was startled and thrilled when all of a sudden Maggie Rose started to run. Casey still perched on her hand. Casey seemed excited too, because he raised his wings. Maggie Rose ran around and around the yard. I chased her, holding the rope toy in my mouth so that this new game would be even more fun. And with a squawk, Casey flapped his wings. With a gasp of delight, Maggie Rose lifted her hand even higher. Casey flew into the air. Look, Dad, Maggie Rose shouted. Casey's flying. I sat with the rope toy in my mouth and watched as Casey soared far up into the sky. He flew in a big circle, flapping his wings. Maggie Rose was clapping and Mom and Dad were smiling. And then Casey came gliding out of the sky and landed at Maggie Rose's feet. I barked excitedly, dropping the rope toy in the grass, and then I jumped on it. We were all having such fun. Dad turned to Mom. Oh boy, he said, this isn't good. Just like that, the joy left my human family, even though I was shaking that rope toy like crazy. I hope Casey understood what was going on, because I sure didn't. That evening, I lay under Brian's feet at the dinner table. Brian will sometimes hand down a piece of dinner for me to snack on while I'm lying there, waiting for everyone to finish and practically fainting with all the wonderful smells. Maggie Rose is my girl, but Brian and Craig are part of the family too. So I love them all. I love Brian a lot if he is eating. I'm worried that Casey's becoming domesticated, Dad said. That doesn't often happen with young birds, but he didn't seem to want to fly off. Maybe he's gotten too dependent on us giving him food. Maybe he just needs to find a crow family, Mom said. Yeah, Craig said, like playing soccer. You can play by yourself, but it's much more fun with a team. Well, Brian replied, not more fun for Maggie Rose. She's a little runt that no team would want her. That's not a very nice thing to say, Brian, Dad replied gruffly. I think maybe after you apologize to Maggie Rose, you should do the dishes for the rest of the week so you can think about what it would take for you to be nicer to your sister. Brian groaned and kicked his legs and did not feed me any more treats. Maggie Rose, you are such fun. Would you like to play ball with me after dinner? Craig asked sweetly. Yes, my girl said. I jumped up. Ball? Dad laughed. Okay, that sounded pretty fake, Craig. Then everyone laughed. Except Brian. The next day was not a day where people said school. Instead, we went for a car ride. Dad drove and Craig sat next to him. Casey was in his cage in the very back, and I was in the second seat with Maggie Rose and Brian. The three of us in the second seat were mostly watching out the window for other dogs to bark at. Wouldn't it make more sense to release Casey up in the mountains? Maggie Rose asked. There are lots of crows up there. Good question, Maggie Rose, Dad answered, but a flock of crows in the mountains is much less likely to accept a strange crow than a flock in the city. No one knows why, but I suspect it has to do with the birds all being more crowded around here. The crows in cities are much more used to seeing strange birds, so we're going to take Casey to a big city park where I know there are lots and lots of crows hanging around, and I hope they accept him. But what if they don't like Casey? Well, we can keep trying. Maybe we'll find another flock, or Casey might just fly off on his own. Lone crows are not uncommon, especially males, but they're always safer in a group. Do you know what a flock of crows is called? I know, Craig called out. Let's see if your sister or brother knows, Dad replied. Brian rubbed his chin. A crow flock? Dad laughed. I don't know, Maggie Rose admitted. I saw a squirrel out the window and wagged my tail. Craig? A murder? Craig replied. Brian laughed. Actually, Dad replied, Craig is right. A group of crows is called a murder of crows. No one's sure why. Maybe just because they'll surround a dead animal to eat it. But there are people who think that crows are evil and bring death. Casey isn't evil, Maggie Rose objected. He's friendly. I did a report on crows, Craig said. They're smart. When a crow dies, the other crows will surround him because they're trying to figure out what happened. If it was an animal attack, they try to learn from it. Even I didn't know that, Dad said. Very interesting, and that's another reason why it would be better if Casey joined a family, so that he could learn from them. Okay, that's the end of Chapter 6. I will see you next time for Chapter 7.